I first met in person with Mary E. in the summer of 2007. I had arranged with her husband of 15 years, Terence, to see her for an interview. Mary had initially agreed since I was not a newsman, but rather an amateur writer gathering information for a few early college assignments, and if all went according to plan, some pieces of fiction. We scheduled the interview for a particular weekend when I was in Chicago on unrelated business, but at the very last moment Mary changed her mind and locked herself in the couple's bedroom, refusing to meet with me. For half an hour I sat with Terence as we camped outside the bedroom, I listening in and taking notes, while he attempted fruitlessly to calm his wife. The things Mary said made very little sense, but fit with the pattern I was expecting. Though I could not see her, I could tell from her voice that she was crying, and more often than not, her objections to speaking with me centered around an incoherent diatribe of her dreams, her nightmares. Terence apologized profusely when we ceased the exercise, and I did my best to take it in stride, recall that I wasn't a reporter in search of a story, but merely a curious young man in the search of information. Besides, I thought at the time I could perhaps find a similar case, if I put my mind and resources to it. Mary E. was the sysop for a small Chicago-based bulletin board system in 1992, when she first encountered Smile.jpg, and her life changed forever. She and Terence had been married for only 5 months, and Mary was one of an estimated 400 people who saw the image when it was posted on a hyperlink on the BBS, though she is the only one who has spoken openly about the experience. The rest have remained anonymous, or perhaps dead. In 2005, when I was only in 10th grade, Smile.jpg was brought to my attention by my burgeoning interest in web-based phenomena. Mary was the most often cited victim of what is sometimes referred to as Smile Dog. The being Smile.jpg is reputed to display. What caught my interest, other than the obvious macabre elements of cyber legend and my proclivity towards such things, was the sheer lack of information, usually to the point that people don't believe it exists, other than a rumor or a hoax. It's unique, because though the entire phenomena centers on a picture file, it's nowhere to be found on the internet. Certainly many photo-manipulated simulacra litter the web, showing up with the most frequency on sites such as the image board, 4chan, particularly the X-focused paranormal subboard. But it is supposed that these are fakes, as they do not have the exact same effect as the true Smile.jpg is supposed to have, namely sudden onset temporal lobe epilepsy and acute anxiety. This purported reaction in the viewer is one of the reasons the phantom-like Smile.jpg is regarded with such disdain, because it is quite, well, patently absurd. Though depending on whom you ask, the reluctance to acknowledge Smile.jpg's existence might be just as much out of fear as it is of disbelief. Neither Smile.jpg nor Smile.dog is reported, mentioned anywhere on Wikipedia, though the website features similar articles on such other, perhaps more scandalous sock sites that held things like Hello.jpg or Two Girls One Cup. Any attempt to create a page pertaining to Smile.jpg is summarily deleted by any one of the encyclopedia's many admins. Encounters with Smile.jpg are the stuff of internet legend. Mary E.'s story is not unique. There are unverified rumors of Smile.jpg showing up in the early days of Unset, and even one persistent tale that in 2002 a hacker flooded the forums of the humor and satire website Something Awful with a deluge of Smile.dog pictures, rendering almost half the forum's users at the time epileptic. It is also said that in the mid to late 90s, the Smile.jpg circulated on Usenet, and as an attachment of a chain email with the subject line, "Smile, God loves you." Yet despite the huge exposure these stunts would generate, there are very few who would admit to experiencing any of them, and no trace of the file or any link has ever been discovered. Those who have claimed to see smile.jpg often weakly joke that they were far too busy to save a copy of the picture to their hard drive. However, all alleged victims offer the same description of the photo. A dog-like creature, usually described as appearing similar to a Siberian husky, illuminated by a flash of a camera, sits in a dim room. The only background detail that is visible being a human hand extending from the darkness near the left side of the frame. The hand is empty, but is usually described as beckoning. Of course, most attention is given to the dog or dog creature, as some victims are more certain than others about what they claim to have seen, as the muzzle of the dog beast is reputedly split into a wide grin, revealing 2 rows of very white, very straight, very sharp, and very human-looking teeth. This, of course, is not a description given immediately after viewing the picture, but rather a recollection from the victims who have claimed to see the picture endlessly repeated in their mind's eye during the time that they are, in reality, having epileptic fits. These fits are reported to continue indeterminately, often while the victims sleep, resulting in a very vivid and disturbing nightmare. These may be treated with medication, though in some cases it is more effective than others. Mary E., I assumed, was not on effective medication, and that was why, after a visit to her apartment in 2007, I sent out feelers to several folklore and urban legend-oriented newsgroups, websites, and mailing lists, hoping to find the name of the supposed victim of smile.jpg, who felt more interested in talking about his experiences. For a time, nothing happened, and I completely forgot about my pursuits since I began my freshman year of college and was quite busy. Mary contacted me via email, however, near the beginning of March 2008.
Dear Mr. L, I am incredibly sorry about my behavior last summer when you came to interview me. I hope that you can understand that it was no fault of yours, but rather my own problems that led me to act out as I did. I realized that I could have handled the situation more decorously. However, I hope that you will forgive me. At the time, I was afraid. You see, for 15 years, I have been haunted by Smile.jpg. SmileDog comes to me in my sleep every night. I know that sounds silly, but it's true. There is an ineffable quality about my dreams, my nightmares, that make them completely unlike any real dreams I have ever had. I do not move, and I do not speak. I simply look ahead, and the only thing ahead of me is that scene from that horrible picture. I see the beckoning hand, and I see SmileDog. It talks to me. It is not the dog, of course, though I am not quite sure what it really is. It tells me it will leave me alone if only I do as it asks. All I must do, it says, is spread the word. That is how it phrases its demands, and I know exactly what it means. It wants me to show it to someone else, and I could. The week after my incident, I have received in the mail a manila envelope with no return address. Inside was only a 3.5-inch floppy diskette. Without having to check, I knew precisely what was on it. I thought for a long time about my options. I can show it to a stranger, a coworker. I could even show it to Terrence, as much as the idea disgusted me. And what would happen then? Well, if SmileDog kept its word, I can sleep. Yet if it lied, what would I do? And who was to say something worse would not come for me if I did as the creature asked? So I did nothing for 15 years, though I kept the diskette hidden amongst my things, every night for 15 years. Smile Dog has come to me in my sleep and demanded I spread the word. For 15 years, I have stood strong, though there had been hard times. Many of my fellow victims on the BBS board, where I first encountered Smile.jpg, stopped posting. I heard some of them committed suicide. Others remained completely silent, simply disappearing off the face of the web. They're the ones I worry about the most. I sincerely hope you will forgive me, Mr. L. But last summer when you contacted me and my husband about an interview, I was near the breaking point. I decided I was going to give you the floppy diskette. I did not care if Smile Dog was lying or not. I wanted it to end. You were a stranger, someone I had no connection with, and I thought I would not feel sorrow when you took the diskette as a part of your research and sealed your fate. Before you arrived, I realized what I was doing. I was plotting to ruin your life. I could not stand the thought, and in the fact, I still cannot. I am ashamed, Mr. L. And I hope that this warning would dissuade you from any further investigation of Smile.jpg. You may, in time, encounter someone who is, if not weaker than I, then wholly more depraved. Someone who will not hesitate to follow Smile Dog's orders. Stop while you're still whole. Sincerely, Mary E.
Terence contacted me later that month with the news that his wife had killed herself. While cleaning up the various things she'd left behind, closing email accounts and the like, he happened on the above message. He was a man in shambles. He wept as he told me to listen to his wife's advice. He'd found the diskette, he revealed, and burnt it. Until it was nothing but a stinking pile of blackened plastic. The part that most disturbed him, however, was how the diskette had hissed as it melted. Like some kind of animal, he said. I will admit, I was a little uncertain how to respond to this, and at first I thought perhaps it was a joke, with the couple belatedly playing with the situation in order to get a rise out of me. But a quick check of several Chicago newspapers' online obituaries, however, proved that Mary E. was indeed very dead. There was, of course, no mention of suicide in that article, and I decided, for a time at least, I would not further pursue the subject of Smile.jpg, especially since I had finals coming at the end of May. But the world has odd ways of testing us, and almost a year after I'd returned from my disastrous interview with Mary E., I received another email.
Hello. I found your email address through a mailing list. Your profile said you were interested in Smile Dog. I have saw it is not as bad as everyone says. I have sent it to you here. Just spreading the word.
The final line chilled me to the bone. According to my email client, there was a file attachment called naturally Smile.jpg. I considered downloading it for a while. It was most likely a fake, I imagined, and even if it weren't, I was never wholly convinced of Smile.jpg's peculiar powers. Mary E.'s account had shaken me, yes, but she was probably mentally unbalanced anyway. After all, how could a simple image do what Smile.jpg was said to accomplish? What sort of creature was it that could break one's mind with the only power that was its eye? And if such things were patently absurd, why did the legend exist at all? If I downloaded the image, if I looked at it, and if Mary turned out to be correct, if Smile Dog came to me in my dreams, demanding I spread the word, what would I do? Would I live my life as Mary had, fighting against the urge to give until I died? Or would I spread the word, eager to be put to rest? And if I chose the latter route, how could I do it? Who would I burden in turn? But if I went through with my earlier intention to write a short article about smile.jpg, I decided I could attach it as evidence. And anyone who read the article, anyone who took interest would be effective. And even assuming that smile.jpg attached to the email was genuine, would I be capricious enough to save myself in that manner? Could I spread the word? Yes. Yes, I could.